Hey, this is Lonnie from Lonnie's Hot Rod Shop. Today we're building wheel tubs for the Eleanor. So we've made us a buck. We'll be able to put the metal on the buck and bend the metal right over the edge of the buck, creating a nice round shape. We've already got the hoops over here made. We bead roll everything first, because it's hard to bead roll it after the fact. This will go over the metal. So we'll just bend it into shape, and that'll be an extent to the wheel tubs. So here you can see the hoop is, going to fit over the buck nice and tight. And when we put this piece up there, we'll fold the edge over. It'll give us a nice round edge. It'll complement the top of the wheel tub. This will have some bead rolls in it, probably in a trident style.
Bigger studio.
Hey, this is a 64 Galaxie. This is the XL. I guess it would be the competition to the SS Impala of 64. You can see some of the lines, even the bow up here, very much similar to the 64 Impala. So this car here got a new front suspension, so it got ball joints, bushings, springs, and shocks. We cut the first coil off the spring so the front end will sit a little bit lower. Changed the wheels on it, so now it's running American racing rims, and we've got new springs coming for the back. We've done AC inside to make it comfortable. So the next thing will probably be some, enhancements to the interior, replacement of parts. We put a hitch on the back. I want to be able to carry my 1956 boat. So finding a hitch for a classic car is kind of hard. You have to get an adjusted one and then make it fit. And I'll probably cover that when I get this thing up on the lift someday. So this is a 64 Galaxie. All right, here we are on the 59 Impala. We're putting the finishing touches up. We're making stainless steel brake lines. If you remember, we did all the suspension, so we got new springs and new bushings in the pan hard bar, and a new banana bar to go in, which is the upper trailing arm. Right now we're bending stainless steel brake lines and we're fitting them to the original location. So come on to the front. So you see here we got the new rotors on, new calipers and the brackets. So this all has new bushings on it, new ball joints. You can see the new brake hose and the stainless steel line there going to a new proportioning valve. Up top I got a new master cylinder, power booster, all the brackets to work with in conjunction with the original generator power steering. So we're bending the brake lines, like I said. We're having to make them all new, so they're all stainless steel. We're going to put DOT 5 in. DOT 5 would be my suggestion of brake fluid that you do on these older cars. First off, it doesn't ruin your paint like DOT 3 will make your paint come off. DOT 5 also doesn't attract moisture, so you don't have a car that sits for a long time and all the components start to rust internally, which is also the reason, that brings me right back to the lines. The steel lines, they start closing up like an artery. So the inside circle starts constricting with all the rust that starts developing on the inside of the brake lines. So that's why we put stainless steel. Rust doesn't form on the stainless steel inside, or at least as bad. So you want to put on new hoses when you do the job. And everything's looking good. So hopefully we'll have this thing down. We'll go get it at the front end aligned. And we'll have a brand new brake system on this car, brand new suspension front and back, brand new bearings. So everything will be working really good. We'll see how it looks with the white balls back on it. Stay tuned on this one. Hey, this is Lonnie with Lonnie's Hot Rod Shop. We're working on the other rear tub. So we're working on the hoop part through this nice roller. And he has English wheeled and shrinked the part of the face of the wheel tub, and he's also used the buck to create the shape. So this is going to go in Eleanor and create the other wheel well in the back. So stay tuned and see how we're going with this. So here I am on the 30 Chevy truck. I've cut out the wheel arches from the original sedan. I'm fabricating up a panel that'll fit in here, and I'm making the final fitment to it. You can see my clamps. I got a couple of C-clamps and a couple other little clamps here. So I'm getting the bend, I'm getting the shape, the curve, everything, so that I can weld this piece in, and that'll make the back of the truck look like, you know, back of the truck, back of the cab. So you can see this side's not really fit yet. There's still a big gap and such, so I'll be still adjusting this side to fit next. So this is a part of the firewall. We've made our first bead roll around the outside, and we've designed the pleats, or at least laid them out so we know what the pleats are going to be. So it'll have a border around it, and it'll have all the pleats down the center, and this will be the firewall on the front of the Chevy truck. If you look, he turned the bumper upside down. So here is a 65 GMC cab. You probably saw in that little preview there was another 65 GMC four-wheel drive truck. But this is a 65 GMC truck. We're doing some metal repair on the bottom of the doors, the cabs. There's a couple of holes in the top. He's going to paint it this light blue color. I don't have a name for this truck yet. I keep coming up with blue suede shoes, but it's not suede. So I don't know. I'm going to need some help on naming this truck. 65 GMC, it's going on the rotisserie, so we're going to get started on this one. So keep in touch with this one and stay tuned to see how it progresses. So this is the 59 Impala. We're finishing up on it. We put stainless steel brake lines in it, and we're making sure we got no leaks. So we're bleeding all the brake lines. You know, this one got new springs, new bushings, new disc brakes in the front. The owner had already put in new shocks, so we didn't do that. We did new ball joints. So right now we're just making sure that we have no leaks in any of the lines that we've done, and that's what we're doing. We're finishing up. I use .5. I probably covered that earlier. Any brakes I do, I try to use .5, but you got to evacuate all the .3 before you add in .5. So you just can't go out there and put .5 in. You got to evacuate all the .3, put .5 in, and you'll get the benefits of. It won't take off your paint, it won't attract water, it's a higher boiling point, it's just a better product. And it's a pretty blue. So stay tuned, we'll have this one down on the ground shortly, and I'll get it aligned and it'll be ready to go. So you can see here the inner tubs are going in, and you can see the massiveness size of the tubs. We're still going to have the fold down rear seat, and I still want to have a seat that's going to kind of wrap around here. We'll get to that and you'll see it. We've got this nice round detail showing here. Right now it's screwed into place so we can get it nice and tight. We'll hammer down the little irregularities of the shape, but basically you get an idea of the massiveness of the tub. So that's where we're at on the Mustang. So here's a closer up picture. You can see how nice and tight this gap is. And we'll bring it around to the other side and I'll show you how big the gap where I started with. Kind of get a initial cut that's, you know, I mean, it's based on math, you know, but it's kind of got gaps. So I lay the piece up in there and then just start drawing lines until I get it nice and tight, grind off a little bit, draw another line, and you'll see on the other side. I'll show you. Come on to the other side. So you'll see it's touching up here and it's touching back here. So we took the wheel well and we cut it out, and that's where we got the template to start with. So that gives us this arch, but as you can see, it's got a bigger gap here in the center. Well, that you can't weld that unless you had some major filler panel to fit in there. So what I do is I trim up here and trim back here, and I just basically put this down, make a mark, grind it, and keep doing that until this fits. I want to keep this line straight, but right now it's kind of hooked off that way, so I've got room to go that direction. And then I'll fill in this gap, and you'll see like the other side. And I'll curve this to fit the body line. So that's what we're doing right now. See now, I've got this ground down to where I've got a nice small gap here. I fold it over the edge so it takes on the shape of the rear. This shape here will maintain the door. So this has actually been matched to the door edge and the way it rolls. So once we get all this welded in, it should look pretty good. There'll be some hammer and dolly to get this to nice shape, but this is the back rear side of the cab.
Here's the firewall. I added a 1-inch strip all the way around it to do a perimeter so it'll sit back 1 inch from where it originally was.
So not every car has to be a show car. Sometimes you just want to drive a classic. So you get you a classic, you can buy it off Craigslist, you can buy it off Facebook. There's plenty of places to buy a nice classic car. Maybe your buddy's got one. So one of the first things that I do when I get a classic car is I make sure the fuel system is cleaned out and operational. Sometimes that means replacing lines and definitely hoses, replacing the fuel pump, maybe rebuilding the carburetor. Anything that's a rubber product you're going to want to look at and possibly replace, especially if it had cracks in it. The brake lines. Some of these older cars have drums. So when you do the drums, you want to replace not only the wheel cylinder, well, the brake shoes, the wheel cylinder and the hose on both sides. Both front sides definitely need to be done at the same time. I suggest to do the back at the same time, but it's not as critical. The front, if you don't do both sides, one side will pull. But if you do both sides at the same exact time, you won't have that pulling problem. Another thing I do is I get rid of the points and I go to a Pertronics or change out the whole distributor to a modern distributor. Pertronics has a product that will just a drop in, replace the points, and it's a drop in pickup, magnetic pickup. Let's see, what else do I do? I make sure the cooling system's working, so I check the hoses, heater hoses and the water hoses. I'll replace or drain out the antifreeze and put in new antifreeze 50-50. I like air conditioning because we're in Florida, so I add AC to the car to make it comfortable. What else do I do? Sometimes I add a fan. Well, I check the lights to make sure the lights are functioning. These older cars, they have dim lights. Let's just call them 2 lumens. And so you do anything that you can do to upgrade the lights. If you go to a standard H4 halogen bulb, that'll help you with these older cars. But now there's other offerings out there. There's LED lights. So you buy this fixture and an LED bulb. In fact, you'll follow along. I'll do that conversion on this car here shortly. Suspension. You go through the suspension, you replace any worn parts, obvious parts. If a tire is wearing, you see if there's worn parts. And sometimes you can see it, the bushing will be cracked or just totally disintegrated. So you replace that. Get it aligned. Put you some new tires on it. Make sure nothing rubs. If it does, look into replacing the suspension parts. The next thing, would be the gaskets around the window to make sure it's a weather-tight car. The wipers work. So, but again, you're just making a classic car function properly. And there's seat belts. If you don't like the seat belts that are in it, there's seat belts out there that you can get seat belts for it. If it doesn't have seat belts, you can put seat belts in it. You can retrofit to a 3-point, to a 2-point, whatever you want to do. So this car has decent paint, but if you really got close to it, it wouldn't be decent. But that makes it perfect. I can go to Walmart in this car and somebody opens a door into it. No big deal. Sure, I'll be upset, but it's not like it had a pristine paint job. So they're fun to drive. So get you a classic car, keep them on the road, preserve history, and enjoy life.